Over the last few years, we've seen a massive uptick in attacks using cruise missiles, rockets, and drones on the US and other allies. And the US has virtually no ability to stop them. And as time goes on, it's only going to get worse. But first, this episode's sponsor, the Ridge Wallet. This sponsor was absolutely perfect for me. A few months ago, I stopped using my old, bulky wallet. It was really annoying to carry around. When I heard of Ridge Wallet, it was a perfect fit for me. I've been using it myself, and I'm going to continue to use it. It's small, sleek, looks good, and works great. Another great thing is it's guaranteed for life. So if it wears down or loosens, you're covered. It also came with this mini screwdriver to tighten the screws if necessary. You also get 10% off with promo code COVERTCABAL, no space. Go check them out. That is the Ridge Wallet. Modern day cruise missiles fly extremely low to the ground, making them incredibly difficult to defend against. For decades, the US was pretty much the only nation operating these weapons, so they had no need to develop defenses against them. Today, that's all changed. The proliferation of cruise missiles has just exploded in the 21st century, with even smaller nations operating them. This has left the US dangerously exposed, and we've recently began seeing the results of this. It's not just cruise missiles that are posing a threat to military bases, but also drones and more accurate rockets, launched by terrorists or other groups that blend into the civilian population. These rockets, like cruise missiles, give almost no warning, making defending against them nearly impossible. They are fast, fired from short ranges, and can be set up and launched in minutes, and quickly moved to avoid discovery. We have seen cruise missiles and rocket attacks several times in the last few months on US and Saudi facilities, and each time they failed to stop them. The problem is the US, and by extension in this case, Saudi Arabia, who operates a lot of US weaponry, has nothing to stop them. We saw the attack against the Saudi oil facilities last year using cruise missiles and even drones. This could easily happen to US forces. And as these weapons become more prevalent in the coming years, US military bases are increasingly at risk. This is actually something that Russia excels at. For many years, the Soviet Union, and later Russia, faced newer and more capable threats from US cruise missiles like Tomahawk. Unlike the US mainland, which was thousands of miles away, Russia had the US and NATO right on its doorstep in places like Europe and even the Western Pacific. The US had plenty of time to detect and intercept any Russian bombers or naval ships approaching their country. But Russia didn't have that luxury. It had only a matter of minutes or even less to react and defend itself. So massive investment was poured into these short-range air defenses, such as Tor, Tunguska, and more recently, Pantsir. Russia has years of experience developing and upgrading these systems, and also combat experience in places like Syria to further refine and improve them. While there may be some argument about the true effectiveness of these systems, there is no doubt that there has been several occasions where they have been successful, and are absolutely better than having nothing. Right now, the air defense strategy of the US has been the Patriot air defense system to defend against aircraft and ballistic missile threats, and manpads like the Stinger for short-range, last line of defense, typically against helicopters. With the decommissioning of Hawk and the Chaparral, the US really doesn't have anything in between for medium and short range. Currently, the only short-range air defense system is the Stinger, which can be fired from a single operator or from a vehicle such as the Avenger. The Chaparral fired a version of the AIM-9 Sidewinder, which has a longer range than Stinger, but it was decommissioned in 1998. The US also plans to use fighter aircraft, such as the F-16, to intercept cruise missiles. However, there are many problems with this, mostly the difficulty in detecting low-flying cruise missiles. The US Navy, on the other hand, has an incredibly all-encompassing defense network, as they have faced threat from cruise missile attacks in the form of anti-ship missiles for decades. They have the SM-3 defending against ballistic missiles, the SM-2 and 6 for long-range aerial threats, the ESSM for medium range, the rolling airframe missile for short range, and finally the Phalanx for point defense. So one way of quickly getting short-range air defense systems operational is to take and adopt some of these Navy systems, and that is something that has already been done, to a limited extent. The Phalanx, found virtually on every large US naval warship, has been deployed in the past to military bases in places like Iraq. They call it the Centurion. This can automatically detect and engage things like mortars and rockets, and even cruise missiles. As I mentioned earlier, the nature of these threats gives the defender very little time to react, so any defense system needs to be automatic, and not relying on waiting for human input to act. Recently, another Navy system has been adopted for ground use, the CRAM. The CRAM is a combination of the Phalanx and the rolling airframe missile, giving it a longer range and increased effectiveness over the gun-based phalanx. While these two systems are already in use by ground forces, there are very few that are operational, nowhere near the numbers necessary to defend US bases from attack. Development of brand new systems from the ground up takes years and is incredibly expensive, so a way to quickly get defenses against these threats is to purchase an already existing system. Israel has been facing rocket attacks for decades now, and in response developed the Iron Dome. The system is automated, which is necessary to react quick enough, and has proven itself to be effective repeatedly. Again, like the Russian Pantsir, you can argue about its true effectiveness, but it has successfully defended Israel from several rocket attacks. But the US doesn't like to purchase military equipment from other nations. They like to have everything built by American companies, as it creates jobs, but also you have full control over the system, such as the software. This way they can adapt it, upgrade it over time, and integrate it into other systems. The US actually had planned to purchase the Iron Dome from Israel, but that deal just recently was cancelled. One of the reasons given for this deal failing is that Israel refused to give the US the source code for the system, which to an extent is understandable, as Israel relies on this system to defend its territory. The more the source code is shared, the more likely it is to leak out, and an enemy discovering a way to circumvent it. The US also typically refuses to share its source code with other nations that purchase its military equipment, like the F-35 and Patriot. So, if the US isn't going to purchase any existing system, it will have to develop a new one. One system in development is Lockheed Martin's miniature hit-to-kill missile. It's a tiny missile, weighing only 5 pounds each, and plays a similar role to Iron Dome. It showed some promising results, but has apparently been recently cancelled. Other options could be laser defenses, which is something that we've seen the US focus greatly on recently. But nearly every laser air defense system in development over the last few years has seemed to be cancelled as well, only to begin development on a whole new one. So it seems there's going to be several years before any new air defense system will ever become operational. And with more and more nations operating more advanced cruise missiles, the increasing utilization of small drones in warfare, and forward deployed bases in nations like Iraq and Afghanistan, where these rocket attacks pose a threat, US forces are becoming increasingly exposed. Unless they decide to quickly develop and deploy new defenses, we are likely to see this problem get much worse for the US over time.